Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is part 3 of the mini-series on leveling up your data skills. In the previous 2 parts, we covered paid and free learning resources. In this part, we'll talk about how to choose between these resources and formulate a learning plan. Really, to successfully learn any technology or anything at all, you need 2 things. One is a good plan on what to learn and how to learn them. And second is execution. We'll leave execution to part 4, and in this part, we'll think about what to choose to formulate your learning plan. First thing is to be clear on your goal. What are you learning for? Some people are trying to pivot into data. Some people are trying to get an interview or a job. Some people are trying to get better at what they do day in, day out. And some people are trying to fan out to expand your horizon and learn new skills. All of these are valid goals, but depending on what you are trying to do, you want to choose resources accordingly. For instance, if you're trying to pivot into data and you don't have any relevant experience, maybe having a course that will have some sort of paperwork and give you a certification of sorts or nano degree of sorts will be very helpful, at least show that you're interested in the topic. But if you're trying to get better at what you do, you don't necessarily need paperwork, you just need actual content of learning. So depends on what you do. You might choose a learning resource that will give you a paperwork, a certification, a nano degree of sorts, or just I've learned something. Actually, I'm capable of doing something without necessarily a certification. Second thing is to understand your goal persona. So you could say, okay, I want to learn Power BI. What are you trying to do with Power BI at the end of your learning journey? You could be a report builder, right? Build visualizations and do storytelling. You could be a data modeler, right? Like you could write decks for a living. You could be a enterprise architect with Power BI, understand enterprise deployment patterns as well as the security models and working with underlying data sources. So there's a lot of different personas working with Power BI depending on what your goal persona is. You'll be picking different learning paths or different courses to learn. The second thing is to understand your own learning style. Some people learn better at watching videos. Some people learn better at hands-on experience. So it's very different styles that people are learning with. And in general, you should try different styles and see what suits you the best. The third criteria is the freshness of the content. Data and AI is a very, very fast-moving world, and you really want to pick content that's most up to date. If we are at Spark version 14.15 now, and you're learning a course on Apache Spark that's 8.3, that might not be the most relevant version and your learning will be outdated. Things like very fast moving fields like Apache Spark, like LLM, you really want to pick the content that's made in the last 6 to 12 months maximum, right? Like, and check the version versus the current running version before you decide whether to take that course or not. And another thing is there are technologies that are relatively mature and very stable, things like SQL Server, things like analysis services. And a lot of old classic books might still apply to the current technology. So it does depend on how fast moving the technology you want to learn is. The next criteria is really to prioritize the hands-on experience. If any course has like a hands-on lab element, or if you are learning something, reading a book about it, go try to find a hands-on lab from the provider about that technology, because that's really the best way to learn. And the next thing is really to pick the right level of material for you if you're pivoting into data, or if this is your first course coming from a data analyst to a data engineer and you don't know nothing about the subject. Of course, you want to pick a beginner's course in level 100. And especially if you're picking a course that's intermediate or advanced, you want to look at the prerequisite, make sure that you actually meet the prerequisites before you take the course. Otherwise, you're not going to have a optimal learning experience. The next thing is breadth versus depth. A lot of us are level 200-300 across the board for different subjects. And a lot of people are specialists, so they are level 400 on a very specific subject. Really depends on what direction you want to go into, whether it's the generalist route or the specialist route or the T-shaped route. You want to choose certain type of overview courses versus the deep dive courses. And that comes to the next point, which is the agenda or the table of content or the index of certain courses or learning parses. And you can think about, okay, what do I already know and what do I still need to improve on? Identify your gaps without like having to spend equal amount of hours on each module. You can think about, okay, I'm going to spend more hours on these things that I don't know enough about. I'm going to bridge these gaps, and these things I'm going to actually skip or spend less time on. That's also a very efficient way to learn. The last thing is really don't forget soft skills. A lot of people think about hard skills when they think about data skills level up. So they're like, I need to learn this technology, I need to learn this language, I need to build this visualization and this and that. But a lot of data personas, doesn't matter if you're a solution architect, data engineers, AI engineers, data scientists, there's always an element of teamwork. There's always an element of stakeholder management. So you really want to bake that soft skills learning into your learning courses as well. So think about negotiation, think about communications, think about public speaking, think about stakeholder management. That's it. Happy planning. And in the next part, we'll cover the execution. See you in part 4.